So, welcome everyone. My name is Rachel Cooper. I work for the Texas Society of Architects, which is the state component of the American Institute of Architects. So, we are kind of the middleman between AIA National and the local chapters, is kind of the way I view it. I work as our communications manager and as well with our wonderful architect licensing advisors who will be leading the presentation today. We have Irma Safontes Hess, who's based out of Houston and has been an ALA with us for the last 2 years, and Mike Clough, who's based out of Dallas and is beginning his ALA tenure with us this year. Um, and they will be presenting on your path to licensure, going over your education options, examination steps and tips, as well as the AXP experience, and answering your questions that some of you submitted beforehand along the way. Um, I also wanted to plug real quick for those of you who might be interested in a session like this. We are going to have a similar session at our um, annual conference, which is coming up here in Dallas at the end of October. Um, our AIA Dallas Emerging Professional Leaders. And I think hopefully with the help of Irma and Mike, we'll be putting on a session called Are You Ready? Tips for Exam Successes. So if you're specifically on the path of licensure, you're at the point where you're either considering taking exams or currently taking exams, I would really encourage you to join this session. It'll be in the EP Lounge. It'll be really hands-on. Learning from others who've recently taken the test and getting tips there. So if you're interested in registering for that, you can visit our website, and it'll also be at texasarchitects.org/conference. So that's just a little plug. Um, and I also wanted to mention, um, generally, if you are coming kind of with questions that are more big picture or someone at the agency specifically could answer for you. Here are resources for the NCARB National Customer Service, as well as the Texas Board of Architectural Examiners. If you kind of have a Texas license specific question, the TBAE is a great place to go for that. And if you ever want to reach out to Irma or Mike and kind of ask maybe a more personal question offline, feel free to email info@texasarchitects.org and I will get them connected with you and we will be able to help however we can. And so with that, I will let Irma and Mike take it away.
Thanks, Rachel. So we're going to start today by acknowledging that NCARB is responsible for really aggregating the 55 jurisdictions and members. That's all 50 states, DC, Puerto Rico. Let's see, Virgin Islands, Guam, and the Northern Marina Islands. And really how they do that, and then a part of licensure is 3 steps. I'm sure some of you know some or all of this. It's education, right? It begins with a degree. And actually, it doesn't just need folks with a degree, and we'll talk about a little bit of that, or we can ask some questions later. It continues then with experience, and as you know, that's experience after you graduate, but there are some opportunities prior to as well. And then it also includes the requirements to pass the ARE. So we wanted to go through each of those in a little more detail as we move ahead. Next slide, please. Perfect. So sorry about that. Because the requirements do vary in each jurisdiction, research and planning are key. There is a licensing tool on the NCARB's website that allows you to understand really how to follow that and what to do. Where it begins, as I mentioned, next slide, please, is the 55 jurisdictions generally require applicants to hold a degree. And I say generally because there is a loose forming loophole here, and we can talk about that a little bit later, but it's really an experience issue to that. But of those accredited programs, it's usually where you begin, whether that's a 4+2 or a 5 and 1. And another good resource, just as NCARB has a site, is NAB has a site where you can see which programs are licensed if you haven't started your degree and you haven't gone there. And so you can use that for research. I know there was a question before we started as to where you can find out which programs are accredited and go from there. And here's kind of a quick little link there at the bottom to go forward with that. Um, see, I think, yeah, I'm on the right slide as you. 17 states allow achievement of licensure without an NAAB degree. So it doesn't mean you have to have a certified degree. It just really changes the path by which you do that. And as I mentioned, they are beginning to talk about ways to, even for non-degreed folks who have a breadth of experience in our profession, going through that. With that, Irma's going to talk about the uh, experience program, and I'll hand it over to her.
Thank you, Mike. Yeah. So we have been talking that we need to do education, experience, and also the examination. So speaking about the experience program, this is a framework to guide you through gaining and recording all your professional experience. So we in CARBS wants you to get real world experience to safely and competently handle the scenarios you will face as an architect. So there is the AXP guidelines in the NCARB's website that you can find all the steps to complete the program, reporting procedures, training requirements, and the overview of the tasks you should understand and be able to perform before coming licensed. So next slide, please. So to complete the AXP, you'll need to demonstrate that you are able to competently perform tasks identified across the 6 experience areas. For example, some of the tasks associated with programming and analysis or other ones. It will include a specific items related to those areas. Like for example, here you can see in the programming and analysis, you will do determine impact of zoning, gather information about community concerns, analyze an existing site, evaluate results of feasibility, and so on. So then those experience hours can be divided into settings. One is the setting experience A, and so it's a minimum of 1,860 hours, and you um, may be able to complete this in different tasks, but needs to be supervised by an architect license in US or Canada and work in an organization engaged in the lawful practice of architecture, and the employment must need paid. The unpaid internships are not eligible. So be mindful when starting to register your hours, you're meeting with those requirements. Um, next, okay, so then you have the experience setting O that you have to gain another certain amount of hours, and will be almost equals 1,860 for working. It could be in different areas like design or construction related employment, community-based design and collaboration, CSI certifications, design competitions, NCAR professional monograph, and other ones. So those experience hours are divided in 6 areas, which are practice management, project management, programming and analysis, project planning and design, project development and documentation, construction and evaluation. And each one of them has different amount of hours. And the summary of the task will help you to complete the total amount of required hours that are 3,740 hours across all the six experience areas. So I'm gonna now hand off to Mike so he's gonna explain the jurisdiction requirements.
So thanks, Irma. So what's important to really note here in this slide is what this is indicating to you is this is an instance where you have to check with NCARB on specific requirements. As you can see here, everything in blue, which is the vast majority of these 50 states, has that AXP requirement. Um, in addition, the cross sections also have a duration requirement. So there's a certain period of time you have to practice as well and to do that. But the point here, the takeaway from this slide is really just to understand that each jurisdiction you apply in, you may be working here in Texas, but you may be applying, say, in Kansas or Minnesota or some other way. Each state has its own requirements relative to experience. So next slide, please. The experience is, and this is a changing requirement. So there's a bit of good news to this is, as you can see in this slide, experience gain within the past 8 months used to be 100% credit. And then 8 or more months to 5 years, it was 50%. And then after that, it was 0%. What NCARB has recognized is that experience is important and they won't wanted to stop discounting after 5 years. So what you'll see, and they've announced this, but they have not implemented it, is what you're going to see is any experience for those of you that have been working for a while, any experience over 5 years will start to be counted towards that percentage after 8 months as well. And so you'll see that coming. And I do believe that that credit is also increasing a bit as well. So that's some good news here. Go to that next slide. Um, uh, it's really that it's recommended that each person have an AXP supervisor and their mentor be two distinct individuals, be that someone you've worked with previously or that you're currently working with, and that they be in two separate firms. This is really giving a broad reach and an experience there. And so you can see some of the important things really for each of those folks to guide you along your path with. That was a weird sentence. Sorry about that. Next slide there. This is an outdated slide that you're about to see. Oh, sorry me. I'm one behind, or I'm one ahead. Here we go. The AXP app, sorry. The AXP app is an outdated format. In fact, what you need only do now is instead the candidate can access NCARB's website directly from your mobile device. So there's actually no support any longer for AXP. It's not to say you lost your data or anything happened there. It's just to say that you can just get on any browser and navigate to NCARB. So there is a portfolio option. It is, as we mentioned, it's ways to document experience with exhibits, particularly images and PDFs. If you don't have 2 years experience from more than you have to have at least 2 years experience from 5 years ago. You have to have a current supervisor who's a licensed architect, and you are unable to finish documenting the AXP through experience reports. So essentially, this is a way of, without the backup of time cards and timesheets, it's a way to demonstrate proficiency through an experience or a portfolio presentation. This is where we probably should have started with this, but we do need to just hand this off to Irma for her to take it.
Yeah, so the first thing to do to start your record, your AXP hours, is opening your NCARB record. And because it's the best way to start track your hours, and this is what's going to help you to earning your license later on. So NCARB record will keep you and will keep the track of your work history, education, and when you're ready, your exam history. You will need to get licensed in a U.S. jurisdiction, and then what will work is a reciprocity that will help you to get licensed in another state if you require that. Next slide. So there are AXP our opportunities that maybe you don't know. So I will recommend for you, you can take some screenshots of this slide, because sometimes I know it's difficult to get into all the areas and gain the experience and arrive to the total 3,740 hours. So there are things like a site visit with a mentor, to a construction and evaluation site. You can earn up until 40 hours, or also you can participate in design competitions and you can get up until 320 hours. Then if you do, for example, your CSI certification, you can get other 40 hours. And there is a professional conduct education series from NCARB that you can get up until 10 hours and so on. So the next slide also has more of those hours opportunities that you don't know. So yeah, just take a screenshot of this and save them for your records, and go into deep to see if you're struggling a bit to register your experience hours, so you know what other options you have different from the setting A, and get them um, added. So the next slide also is showing more other opportunities like programming and analysis, project planning and design, project development, and so it explains how many hours uh, you can accumulate with doing those specific tasks. So, well, the last requirement after documenting your education and experience is the registration examination. So, the examination is a multi-division exam used to assess the knowledge and skills regarding the practice of architecture. The ARE is designed to assess aspects of architectural practice that affect public health, safety, and welfare, as well as an architect's responsibilities within firms, such as managing projects and coordinating the work of other professionals. So as you see, the exam divisions are the same as you're gaining in your AXP program. And it aligns in order to NCAR prepare you for real world tasks. So, but keep in mind that each jurisdiction has their own rules regarding when you're eligible to take the exam. So it's good to do your research in your NCAR website per jurisdiction. And also these ones are some exams that you take in Texas, but other jurisdictions may require other tests to complete the ARE. So get ready to review the NCARB website to check the divisions you need. So then talking into deep about the exam format. So the appointment duration will depend of the practice exams you are taking, but basically you're going to have an introductory portion with instructions, then discrete items, question multiple choice, then you will go to the specific case study items, and once you're done, you're going to finalize the exam with a brief conclusion that is outside testing. If you see, the introduction and conclusion are not part of the exam, but it's part of the appointment duration. So then there are the examination policies are first eligibility. So some jurisdictions set different eligibility requirements. In most cases, it's meeting the education requirement. And then taking the ARE, you have two ways to take the exam. One is in person and the other one is online. And so, and then you have the option of retesting if you fail. So you can wait up until 60 days after you fail the division and then retake the exam. So, but if during a year you fail more than 3 times, so you may need to wait a longer period to retake the exams. So there are also this has been introduced by NCARB recently, the English as a second language ESL. So if English is not your first language, so you can request these accommodations when you are registering for the exam, and you will get 20% more of the original time for each division. You get an extension per exam. And then also you will, if you're presenting the test in person, so you will get the option to get a word-to-word translation dictionary. This dictionary needs to be new, without notes, without marks, anything, to be able to translate some words that you are not familiar with. So this is why you have an extra time, but it's only to manage the difficulties of having English as a second language. Um, uh, okay, then the other good thing that, well, sorry, Mike, this is now your time to talk about the rolling clock.
Thanks. Thanks very much. So in April of 23, NCARB took a look at their score validity program, and they actually found that the rolling clock was disproportionately harsh on candidates, female candidates, and candidates of color, and so they eliminated it at that time. And essentially, what it's become is any ARE scores really are valid, save for the following. Invalidated scores from ARE 3.1 or earlier still remain invalid, and any scores that were previously invalidated for 4.0 due to rolling clock have been reinstated. But in general, the thing to remember here is that for Division 5, the four will add to that, but also that those scores will remain valid until a major refresh of the ARE comes up. There is a minor one coming up in the spring, but it is not a major. So, and then the last thing I'll point out is that Texas is not one of the jurisdictions that has. There are some, but Texas is not one that still has a rolling clock policy. Slide here. Really, now that we've talked about the uh, the test taking, there are guidelines that NCAR produces that give you everything you need to know about exam policies, procedures, content, and whether you're testing online or in person. And it's basically your one-stop shop for everything that you need to know about the ARE. The guidelines, within those guidelines, NCARB has provided candidates a matrix of reference books, sources of information, and many of the resources listed have overlapping content. So it's not that you necessarily need to read each and every book, but they're a great starting point for beginning to prepare for the ARE. Next. So to ensure all candidates have access to study materials, they've also done some fully scored practice exams for each division of the ARE. The practice exams were written and developed the same way that the real exams were. They are volunteer architects collaborating to develop questions. Sometimes they're called items, and they follow the test. They follow the test to confirm the objectives outlined in the ARE guidelines. Candidates can take the practice exams in two ways. You can do a test mode that mimics the experience you'll have on game day, or you can do a practice mode that lets you to really see the correct answer and the rationale behind it. They're available for free with an active NCARB record, and you can find those by logging on to NCARB's into your NCARB record and navigating to the exams tab, pardon me, and then going to your practice exams dashboard. So here is a small little demonstration exam here. It's available for free. It's unscored. It has 75 questions that illustrate the style of questions, navigation, how the break structure works, and the experience you can expect from the software. Answer and rationales for most items can be in the demo, and it's viewed in the ARE 5.0 handbook. There we go. Um, so the ARE is based on most recent AIA contract documents, which are available on the AIA's website. But for a complete list, you should check there. Direct candidates to look at the matrix located here. And then finally on this, codes are covered, and we're on the 2021 version of the codes, both the IBC as well as the ICC. Taking the exam, you can do it in person at a Prometric test center, or you can do it online with someone just watching you the whole way. I don't know which one's more pleasurable to you, but you're welcome to decide is the point. Um, the exam content is the same regardless of that. Uh, Candidates can schedule an ARE division through their record. To schedule an exam, you just need to log into your record, go to the exams tab, and then select pay and schedule. At the point of scheduling, you have really, as I talked about, you have two options, one for in-person and a second for online. And then finally, that's really it for that one. Let's go to the next page. Here's the cost. There's the thing everyone is concerned about. Each division costs $257 for retakes. The includes retakes, pardon me. It's not another. The thing you will be charged for is rescheduling. So we're always encouraging you to do to set that and keep it as much, but there is an understanding that we need to be a little fluid in these. So the first reschedule fee is free. After that, it's $52, then $103 to reschedule. And you need to do that up to 24 hours before an online appointment and 48 hours before an in-person appointment. Exam cancellations, if you don't reschedule, say you miss your exam or something happens, you will receive a replacement exam seat, but it will cost you $103. Let's see here. Um, um, Again, we've talked about all the preps, be they online, there's videos, there's the guidelines, there's the handbook, there's the community. All of those are viable resources to share and give tips on how to take those exams, not to give specific questions, but rather tips for those. And then contracts are covered on as we mentioned, this says 2017, but as we talked about earlier, it is a 2021 international IBC, pardon me, 2017 for AIA contracts, and then 2021 for the IBC, and it is the ARE 5.0. Passing score reports. No feedback is usually provided to someone who passes exam. Failing score reports include a scaled score, which provides a consistent metric for interpreting the scores across. The second page has all the failed score reports, performance-based feedback, percentage-based performance of each division, and we can't, and they don't, I should say, provide each and every. They give you more general feedback. It's a performance-based feedback, not a specific item. Is the thing to note there. With that, I'm going to hand it off to Irma to go through NCARB certification.
Okay, so well, it's important to mention that once you're licensed in one jurisdiction, it doesn't mean that you're licensed to practice in different jurisdictions in the US. You must be licensed in each jurisdiction where you seek to practice. And the most commonly and widely accepted means of gaining reciprocity through NCARB certificate. So the first thing you do is, for example, you apply to Texas, follow all your education, experience and exams in Texas, and you will hold an NCAR certificate that in the future it will allow you, if necessary, to then get registered in other states if you need to move and work or need be licensed in different ones. So what being having an NCAR certificate means certifies you that you have met the national standards of eligibility for licensure and recommends that you have been registered as an architect without further requirements. Because many of the 55 jurisdictions have varying requirements, seeking licensure in additional jurisdictions is often faster, easier with the NCAR certification. Streamline the process and reduces amount of time to receive reciprocal license in most jurisdictions and allows you to have greater mobility, especially beneficial for newly licensed architects who want the flexibility to pursue job opportunities, other jurisdiction of after initial licensure. And also there are other good things because it will increase your value on marketability because your mobility it will give you some flexibility gaining this reciprocity. So certified architects can use the letter NCARB as a professional accreditation after their name. And well, so let's go to in deep to get the NCARB certification. So we've been talking during this presentation that you will have first your education, then experience, then examination, and that will take you to licensure with an NCAR certification. So be sure to keep your record active throughout the AXP and the ARE. And so because if not, the fees that you pay for NCAR, they will be waived. Uh, it's good to have your NCAR record of active during and after um, taking your exams and getting licensed because then the certification will help you with the reciprocity in the future. Next slide, please. So then in this slide, we have an additional pathway to get registered. So the education alternative to the NCAR certificate is that sometimes you are getting a bachelor degree that is not certified by NCAR or has a significant amount of architecture. So what you can do, this will be allowed for certain states, not all jurisdictions, will be having the double of experience. So if some states require for the regular pass 3,740 hours, so for this one you may need to do the double of those and then go for your examination. Then it's also a requirement that your process should be in good standing for 3 years, and this go with certain laws, and then you will get your NCAR certification. Next slide, please. So then there is another alternative, and when you have a non-professional degree, you can go through the double of examination and go through an evaluation by NCARB. So NCARB will study if you have certain deficiencies in your bachelor's degree that might need to be completed in order to go and get the examination and the experience. So this one is you submit your record to NCARB, they go through this evaluation and they will send you to get few classes in an accredited program and then continue with your path. Next slide, please. Then there is another option for foreign professionals. So as an alternative, if you are registered in good standing in another country, So you can send your record and your registration with your degrees and all your education and experience to NCARB. They will evaluate your portfolio. And with that, they will decide if you need to also, you're going to go through the same is an evaluation, and they're going to tell you if you need to get some additional credits in an approved institution by NCARB, and then complete some experience. There are some experience hours that will fall in the setting O that can be added to the requested experience from NCARB, but other hours might need to be done during and under the supervision of a registered architect in US. And then you will take the examination and get the licensure. And there are other ways to get this foreign pass. And it's not also with the ESA evaluation. You can also opt for a master from an accredited program and experience examination and get licensure. So there are different paths that NCAR will allow you to follow to uh, get your registration uh, and your NCAR certification. Next slide, please. So, okay, so here it's the foreign architect credential. So this one is explaining how getting your transcripts from foreign education university, for example, if they are in another language, they must be translated by an accredited translator, send it to NCAR, and then they will evaluate this one. And so you will get your experience as explained in the NCAR website, and then the examination. And so you will get also, you may need to provide to NCAR your foreign architect credential that is in another language, must be translated. And then following all the path, you will get the NCAR certification. Next slide, please. Um, so then there is another way, which is this is ongoing right now. The IPAL is the integrated path to architectural licensure. So currently there are 33 accredited programs at 28 schools across the countries that are offering a program that integrating education, experience, and examination will help you to do your architectural path faster. So it will connect you with the education with the current architectural practice, jump starting careers with work experience and networking, making students eligible for licensure after graduation by completing the licensure requirements, opening up career opportunities through faster paths to licensure, helping students to manage the financial burden of earning a degree. Um, so this is an option that is recently implemented by NCARB, and it's testing to help to get a faster path, registration path. Next slide, please.
So if you can, we're going to go through a few questions that we typically get and some that we receive from you all this time. But if you have, after having gone through all, I'm looking real quickly, all 50 slides we just went through. If you have still have some questions that we haven't answered, please put them in the chat, and Rachel, Irma, or myself will monitor that. But if you'll go to the next slide, we have generally a list that we have here. We talk through the benefits of licensure. It is one of a self-service, but it's also, it's also one that allows you to move around, but it also allows you to really build your firm up and promote them as a licensed architect. It also gives you a a sort of a notoriety. A client can come to you as a licensed architect and understand that you have the set of skills required by that state to call you those. We did talk about some atypical tracks for unorthodox professionals to get there, be they um, uh, folks with alternative backgrounds or perhaps folks that were not born in the US, how to get there. We did mention that 5 to 10 years ago is no longer sort of the requirement. There has been the elimination to a certain extent with the rolling clock. The exam has changed and will continue to, but by and large, that's no longer I have to get this done in 6 months to a year. And without a master's degree, we talked about how you can experience is really the thing that you can use to show that you have the same sort of in school versus behind a screen training there. And then, as I mentioned, we talked through international architects. Irma, anything you want to add there before we go to the next slide?
No, I'm good with your explanation there.
Perfect. So here are the sort of questions we get a lot of the times in these. Uh, it's they evolve. They start with when should I start taking the exams and which order should I do them in and exactly what's the best process. Really, all of those and it seems like a cop out answer, but the truth is they are personal sorts of decisions. What I would suggest to you and Irma may have some other kind of input here is I would test in the order of familiarity. Look through the divisions and understand what have you been focusing on. Some of us come out and focus immediately on design issues. Some of us come out and start with CA. And so I would tell you to find something you're most comfortable with based either on your own experience or your own training that tells you where to do that. Um, Irma, anything you want to add there, or you want to kind
Yes,
of?
I agree with you. It's better to check all the divisions and see if there is one that you feel comfortable with and start with those to take them out of the way and then focus on if you need to study more in deep other divisions but honestly it's a individual choice because all of us have different experience and sometimes we start to get into works that will take you more, let's say, into programming and analysis and other construction documents. So you're gonna notice while setting your experience which ones are your strengths and compare with the um, divisions of the exam.
Couple more questions here. Suggestions on expediting the process. We went over iPal, which is a recent creation here where you can do a lot of this while you are still in school. Certainly, it's a specific program, so you'll need to check through NCARB to find those, but that's one way. Um, you're working full time, reasonable timeline. Both Irma and I completely understand that. It's really what I would suggest to you is setting a schedule, but also holding yourself to that. But the last thing I would say is being clear with those you work with on your project team and in your office, saying, "Hey, look, I have this exam. Is there anything coming up before I schedule it?" But staying sort of firm with those and being clear that this is important. This is a benefit to you. It's a benefit to them, and just holding to that. Irma, are there any others of these you want to highlight before we open it up?
Yeah, what you're saying, totally agree. It's be really honest with your schedule and set up your work hours and your because some people basically what do is they'll try to separate but with the family and the friends and you don't need to do that. You just need to manage your schedules, your calendar, and once you have your exam set up, set the hours uh, to study and like it's managing and this is a project you're managing and you also need to handle the time and the deadlines to get it done.
So, with that, are there any questions? I don't see anything in the chat. Does anyone have a question?
If you don't have anything now, or as mentioned earlier, if you have maybe more of a personal situation question that you're not totally comfortable asking in front of the group, I'll show that email again. You can reach out to info@Texas Architects, and I'll connect you with Irma and Mike, and they can help you specifically. Um, but yeah, oh, there's something in the chat now.
Yes, there is. This is being recorded, right, Rachel? And it,
Yes, and it will go shortly onto our YouTube channel. If you just Google Texas Society of Architects, it will live there.
and the next question is the EESA portfolio. I think what's being asked here is it's saying what is involved in a portfolio there. I'm going to be honest, I don't know for sure. Irma, do you have experience with that? I can look it up real quick and get back to this person. Uh-oh.
Irma may be frozen.
I think I was for a second too. So what I'm saying is I'll take a note of this person's and I'll get back to them on that because I have to admit I have to cop to a little bit of ignorance specifically on the EESA portfolio process.
Okay, Irma, you're back.
Yeah, sorry, it has disconnected me twice from
No
the.
worries.
I don't know what's going on. Um, where were you guys at? Is there anything?
There was a question about the EESA portfolio. Do you have any experience with that?
Well, I don't, but what I know from the portfolio, so yeah, of course you need to submit your education with your degree and your transcriptions, and NCARB is going to evaluate that and see if you have any deficiencies in terms of educate the educational portion, and so they will suggest to go and take some of the classes in certain accredited programs so you can complete your education and go through the other requirements that are the experience and the exams. So that's what it takes. This program works also for foreign architects that they can send their foreign transcripts. So, and they will be evaluated by NCARB. And if they see you have a deficiency that you need to complete or a class that is not as important in other countries, but is important in the US, so you can complete those and then continue with the path of the exams and the experience. Because also if you have already experience accumulated, and NCARB is also going to evaluate that experience, so it can be added to your hours.
Thanks, Irma. The next question that I'm seeing here, um, you do not have to finish in Texas specifically. You don't have to finish the AXP process before you start sitting in your exams. You do have to finish it before you're granted a license. By the way, hello to that question writer. I think I know who she is. So,
Um, all right. We'll
there's a question about the costs of the exams. I'm doing this from memory real quick, but I think it was $253 for
Yeah.
the exam, and then the first reschedule was $0, and then second reschedule was 53, and the third maybe 102. And if you miss an exam, I think it's that same 102 to reschedule it.
Yeah, so it you can start with any division, but when getting registered, so you're gonna pay the 257.
Thank you. And then there's a question about if you started this in the 90s, do you have to start all over again? Uh, it's hard for me to say with certainty based on more than that. What I can tell you is again that the rolling clock is based on 3.0. If your exams were then and you haven't taken any exams, it's a yes, you still have to do the exams as far as proving your experience that should be in your record. I assume that you've maintained your record. If you have not maintained your record, the first thing to do is to reevaluate, is to restart that record. InCarb will need to answer this for you because the rules seem to change from week to week. Um, as to what the cost of restarting that. I think there is a per year cost, and if you're talking at the since the 90s, you may have capped out, and I don't know what that current cap to restart your record within Carb is, but you should check with them on that so that you just have your IDP and but really your experience hours. AXP as it's known now there. You are more than welcome. Um, Anyone else? Oh, so this is the point where we should mention, Irma and I do this at a state level, but there are others that are involved in this. And so there is access on NCARB for finding those folks. It's probably the next slide. I'll help you get there. But it's important to sort of note that these folks can be, if you're still at the university, you usually have one on faculty. It could be someone appointed on AIAS. It could be at your local level. It could be, as Irma and I are at the state and at the national level. So there's a good set of resources there at ncarb.org /advisors.
Yes. And as mentioned before, I might be taking over Mike, but um, as Mike said, it's a great resource on the licensing advisors community. NCARB has a slew of social medias and things where they post different tips and resources that are great to follow. And as mentioned, we'll be putting this recording up on the Texas Society of Architects YouTube for your review. And if you have a question that you want to ask or you come across in the future that you would like to get in touch with us about, please feel free to email info@texasarchitects.org, those bottom two emails there. If from what we've discussed, you think maybe your question requires direct contact with NCARB at the national level or TBAE at the state level, you can reach out to their customer service there. Um, but otherwise, that will conclude our presentation for today. Thank you, Mike and Irma, for sharing that insight into this process, and thank you all for joining us today. As mentioned at the beginning, if you want to learn even more in-depth tips for the ARE specifically, we'll be hosting our annual conference in Dallas at the end of the October and invite you all to join that session. There's going to be a bunch of other sessions um, that would be helpful to you, networking, getting to know people in similar situations. So highly encourage you to register if you're able. And Irma and Mike, any sign-offs before we end the meeting?
Well,
Not
thank
for
you
me.
everybody for joining. And remember, this is a path that you're gonna be working through, and you need mentorship. Ask as many questions as you can and ask help. We are here to provide that help.
All right, y'all.
Thanks
Thanks.
all so much.
Thanks, Rachel. Great job.
Of course.